Americans of Reddit, what is something non-Americans will never get? The game where those fireworks or gunshots. We don't really care how the rest of the world does it. If you or a loved one has been diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be entitled to compensation. Also, some other thing about a knee brace. American living in Europe, apparently peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It blows my co-workers' minds why anyone would eat that. Meanwhile they're eating butter and jelly sandwiches like that's not weird. Why we can't make guns illegal overnight in America. Studying in Norway currently, land of the rule followers, and have met way too many friends who seem to think Americans would willfully hand guns over to government because they said so. Paris is around 1,500 miles from Moscow. Los Angeles is around 2,500 miles from New York. The reason many Americans do not have a passport or speak a foreign language is that we barely have enough time to explore our own country. What y'all in Europe call traveling to another country we call commuting to work. This applies to really every group of people, but it still isn't understood somehow that there are plenty of rational Americans who are no different than anyone else in the world who stays informed with the events in the world. The American stereotypes and outlaws make the news and movies. The normal ones just live their lives anonymously. IT's my money and I need IT now. Root beer. Almost every foreigner will just say it tastes like toothpaste. There are some really top-notch beers in America. They just aren't at 7/11. When an American says I'm Irish, they are not saying I am a citizen of Ireland. How amazing true barbecue over a smoker is. Top tier brisket is honestly one of the best foods known to mankind. Probably the sheer size of the country, unless you're from Russia, Canada, China, or somewhere else of comparable size. The idea that you can't drive to the Grand Canyon from New York City in a day will likely be difficult to grasp at first. This may be a narrow response, but I don't think they'll ever understand the intricacies of Protestantism in the southeastern US. So many subsects, and not even over important doctrinal things. We're talking split churches over the color of the carpet, or the accepted role of the youth pastor, not to mention the sway it has over public policies. It's one of those topics that I could rant on for a few hours. Just because we use imperial units of measure does not mean we don't understand metric units. We use both regularly. If your dirty laundry got as much international news media attention, your country would look like a bunch of arrogant, homophobic racists. 2. I've heard a Canadian rant about the fact that we often say MHM as a response to thank you instead of you're welcome. He thought of it as snobby and rude when in reality it is the equivalent of saying of course. Brit abroad, I once saw Walmart selling a frozen turkey with a 6-pack of Miller Lite, I think, taped around it as some kind of Super Bowl special or something. I'm not one for generalization, but that one made me chuckle. Lots of idioms that are specific to the US. I was talking to a South African friend and casually tossed out the phrase came out swinging and he looked at me like I was from another planet. This obviously happens even more for non-native speakers. American police is not really a thing. There are over 15,400 law enforcement agencies covering as many jurisdictions in the United States. Therefore blanket statements such as American police keep shooting black guys are about as correct as Mexican immigrants are drug dealers. College sports, especially football and to an extent basketball. I'd possibly lump that in with how people feel about their respective universities. The apparel, the home deregistered sign corps, the license plates. People are really proud of where they went to school, and if their athletics program is good then there you go. People may not realize Michigan's football stadium is the same size if not bigger than Ducking Camp now. Please don't call me Yank. I'm from Louisiana and that is just insulting. Apparently how much we value our individuality and autonomy, and the fact that we trust the general citizenry more than we trust our government. You'll never get to win the World Series of baseball, even if your country plays it, other than a couple Canadian teams. We don't invite outsiders to the World Championships. Taxes. They aren't included in the price tag because taxes vary depending on where you are, and companies want to be able to advertise a single price across different states and cities. Non-American. But I'll chime in anyways. To you Americans. Something non-Americans will never understand. Biscuits and gravy. None of us will ever understand your love of country gravy. Just how fun a day of shooting things in the country can be. There's nothing like gathering up some old TVs, maybe an old car, a little bit of tannerite, and a few friends with their arsenals to come out and have a shootout. I don't hunt. I don't think I need a gun for protection. But damn, are they fun to shoot. The US Gov will prevent its citizens from having their rights violated overseas. Example, Amanda Knox. She was found guilty. Then it was overturned. And she was found not guilty. She came home. Italy issued an arrest warrant for her. And the Dodge refused to comply on the grounds of double jeopardy. Can't be tried for the same crime twice. How it feels to chew 5 gum. How big this nation is. You can't drive from NY to LA in 12 hours. Why we don't know where a small European country is. Same reason you don't know where Louisiana is. Why Americans are so defensive about freedom and wanting to own guns. I'm not saying it is right or wrong. Just our unique historical heritage that many people simply do not get because their countries didn't go through the same thing. Chili. And the concept of mixing anything with it. I brought chili and fritters to make frito pie for the Austrians I visited a while back, and it absolutely blew their mind that anyone would even think of combining the two. Chili by itself was also pretty far out there for them too, but they at least tried it. Why we do things the way we do and get pissed off when people either try to tell us what to do or say why don't you do it like other country, with zero attempt understanding our history and culture. As much as Americans get it on for not understanding the rest of the world, plenty of international people I've met don't know much of the US beyond the current news either. Our country rose to power in a shockingly small amount of time and was built by certain people who also rose from nothing to everything. People like Carnegie and Rockefeller. Because of this, there is a pressure on people to make it big quick and be constantly concerned with doing awesome in college so you can get that amazing career, so you can get rich, so you can get that big house and lifestyle you want. I might be wrong, but people in other countries just seem so much more content with living a smaller life, which I think is cool. That the mainstream media is not the general opinion of the entire country. More than Americans will never get. Free refills. And not just on soda. French fries, chips, ice cream, salad greens, breadsticks, meat. If it's served, somewhere has free refills of it. Muscle cars. Going fast in a straight line developed because of the size of the country and lots of straight lines everywhere. Why is my car Camden goes wum 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 mm wum wum? Because I want it to. There are 50 states, not 52. Yes, I'm sure. Really, I'm sure. You're thinking of playing cards. Source, American who lived in New Zealand for over a year. Kiwis think it's 50 plus AK and HW. Nope. Lower 48 plus the other 2. That makes 50 folks. I said this last time this thread came up. We call ourselves Americans because there is no good alternative to refer to our citizens. We know that the USA is not the only country in the Americas. But what else do you want us to call ourselves? USalians? Stations? That there is a difference in culture, values, food, or appearance. I had someone legitimately try to tell me that someone from Boston will be exactly the same as someone from BFE Louisiana, and that person will be the same as someone from Seattle, and that person will be no different than an Amish lady from Lancaster. Those are 4 people who quite literally have nothing in common with each other. The individual spirit. The reason there is no national, cultural identity is because we are only a couple hundred years old and had nothing to begin with. The founding fathers, most of them, were brilliant men and they knew this would be a problem. The reason we value the individual and cult of one is we have no choice. It's different now, but just 150 years ago the difference between an Italian, German, British or Irish American was huge. How do you forge the bond? Well, you do it as an individual. It doesn't work perfectly. People still prefer clumping together with those that are more like them, but it's got a pretty good track record after starting out with nothing. V8 engines and really big trucks. How to properly visit the US. If you think visiting the US is spending your entire time in NIC, DC, SF, or LA, guess what, you haven't seen the US. I'm not sure many visitor tourists can get how large the US is geographically, if all they have for comparative reference is Europe or other relatively small areas. As terrible as Trump might be, a lot of Americans have been left behind both culturally and economically since the Great Recession. In a one-sentence answer, that's why Trump won.